Well, hey folks, Real Honesty with John Ritlin, and this is my rankings of every single NXT TakeOver event from worst to best. Other people have done their own lists. I figured at 20 takeovers, heading right into TakeOver Brooklyn 4 tomorrow. I figured why not do this? And I had to give an honorable mention, of course, to NXT TakeOver Arrival, Bo Dallas versus Neville in that great ladder match. Paige versus Emma, setting off the whole thing with the Women's Revolution, especially in NXT, with that fantastic NXT women's title match. Really enjoyable. Definitely good to see. And I do also want to clarify that if you notice that I don't go over every single minute detail of these cards, I had to look up a lot of these cards to rank them anyway. So forgive me if maybe you guys got to go back and watch to see why I rank them where I rank them. But I'm going off of memory and of, the fun times I had with these. So yes, my rankings may be controversial, but hey, it's my list and it's for fun. So, anyway, let's get cracking on. Number 20, NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way. Neville won a great Fatal 4-Way match. Really good stuff. There were a couple other good matches on the undercard. And really, quite frankly, one of, a solid show overall. Even the worst TakeOver is usually at least good, even if the whole card isn't necessarily the best. This one had a good flow to it and really set the tone as being the second TakeOver event as to what you would expect from from these shows going forward. But then we go to number 19, TakeOver, the very first one in May of 2014. Natty versus Charlotte is the main reason why I ranked this where I ranked this. A fantastic women's match. Natty really did help Charlotte establish herself here, as Natty was a big veteran. Charlotte had only been in the business like a year or two at that point. I think about a year, maybe a year and a half. But they had such great chemistry. I mean, they had great chemistry before anyway. And since then, I mean, they had great chemistry. They had a great build to this match. They've had great chemistry since then. Had some really, really good matches, and this was kind of the whole tipping point and the starting point. And really, it's a great match. Go back and watch it. It's absolutely fantastic. And then we go to number 18, NXT TakeOver Rival from February 2015. More famous for the fact that Sasha had captured the title in that great Fatal 4-Way match where she had beaten the 4 Horsewomen, and where Kevin Owens had beaten his friend Sami Zayn into submission to gain the NXT title. And yeah, you might have thought that was a bit of a downer ending, but it was still really damn enjoyable and just so fun and so well done and just such great stuff. I really enjoyed this one. It was absolutely fantastic. No complaints for that finish or that women's match. Sure, okay, a couple matches on the undercard maybe weren't that great, but they were still establishing themselves. It took about a year, maybe, I'd say about a year, just over a year, for the NXT TakeOver brand to really get established as being the focal point of like a lot of pay-per-view weekends, or at least certain pay-per-view weekends. And really, it's like TakeOver Brooklyn 1 was about, the starting point for that. But this was one of those where it's like, okay, you can look back and appreciate those two matches, and you can see why some of the undercard matches happened. But yeah, some of the undercard were just like, I don't really give a shit about this. But then we go to number 17, NXT TakeOver R Evolution from December 2014. Kevin Owens made his debut. CJ Parker legit breaking his nose. With a palm strike. And I mean, CJ Parker now, Juice Robinson in New Japan, doing pretty well for himself, the current IWGP US champion. And also known for great women's match, Charlotte still defending her title with pride. And Sami Zayn beating Neville. That's like pretty much the main reason I put this up where I did, is Sami Zayn beating Neville and just, finally winning the NXT title. And then Kevin Owens coming out to celebrate with him, and then powerbombing him and just beating the shit out of him, which would lead to, which actually, was what led to the previous mention that I talked about, NXT TakeOver Rival. And it was just so great to see that happen. I only ranked it a little bit higher because of Owens' debut, and I felt that the Neville-Sami Zayn match was better than Owens and Zayn. But they still had some great matches. They had a couple great matches in NXT and then great matches on the main roster, even if they oversaturate us with that. But yeah, that Neville Sami Zayn match, thing of beauty, And Neville's forgotten about as being a fantastic NXT champion. I mean, really doing so damn well. And actually had teases of being a heel the last few months of that reign. And his next couple months until he got called up to the main roster in 2015, he really was starting to show twinges of being a heel. And then he went full-fledged heel at the end of 2016. But back to TakeOver. We go now to number 16, NXT TakeOver Unstoppable. Samoa Joe made his debut after Kevin Owens had beaten down Sami Zayn a whole bunch. And there was that. And then there was also a great match between Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. A great submission-based match. Really fan-fucking-tastic. This was absolutely wonderful. Becky appealed to me right away. But I thought the gimmick was a little bit goofy. The whole thing of, being the Irish Celtic music and that kind of stuff. I was like, there's something here. But I wonder if they're going to let Becky be herself more. And they did. And they showed off her great submission skills here. Same with Sasha Banks. It was some great stuff. And this showed how both women definitely arrived. Sasha Banks was in her element being a heel here. She needed to be a goddamn heel again, in my opinion, at some point. But Becky, just this great underdog babyface, and just showing what could happen that even in defeat, you can gain the respect of fans. And the crowd was really, really on fire for her. This was actually the last TakeOver event, or the second to last TakeOver event that would take place at Full Sail. Only one other would. And that was later in 2015, NXT TakeOver Respect. That Sasha Becky match was fantastic. And also Samoa Joe's debut. There was some good stuff otherwise on this card, but those are two matches in particular to pay attention to. Then number 15, oh look, it's NXT TakeOver Respect. This was... You did have Apollo Crews versus Tyler Breeze, which wasn't bad. You did have the Dusty Classic, which you had that happen. You had the semifinals and the finals. You did have, and you didn't really... You had the women's match. The main reason this is up there is because of Sasha and Bayley in the 30-minute Iron Woman match. I'm calling it an Iron Woman match because it's two women. It's not actually two men in it. Sorry, I'm a bit of a stickler like that. But in October 2015, coming off the heels of TakeOver Brooklyn 1, that absolute barn burner of a classic that Sasha and Bayley had, forgive me, I had a little burp there, for Sasha and Bayley just having that blow-away match, best women's match in NXT history. You can fight me if you want, but that's how I feel. And I don't think too many other people would argue with me. They just had a great 30-minute Iron Woman match here. And at one point, Sasha made Izzy cry. That was good stuff. I have nothing against Izzy. There's no Izzy hate here. I just love how Izzy was incorporated in on that and actually was made to cry. I don't know why. That was just great. It was a great heel move by Sasha. It was really, really good. No Izzy hate here, please. If you got Izzy hate, keep it out of the comments. She's a kid. She's a kid. She's a fan. Just let's leave it on that. I just liked it in the context of the story that she did because that added a whole lot to it. Izzy being the super fan of Bayley that she is, especially at that time. And then we go to number 14, NXT TakeOver London. Asuka versus Emma is the main reason why this is on here because my God, that was wonderful. Great match. Even Dana Brooke being involved in it wasn't that bad. Dana Brooke and Emma, if they had just kept them together, would have worked a whole lot better. Because they called him up way too soon. They called up Dana way too soon. And I know why they called up Emma, and unfortunately she got injured. But they had some great stuff with Emma and Dana Brooke. Because Dana's never going to be anything great. But I just thought she played to her role fine. Now, she did yell a little too much in this match. But Asuka and Emma, two premier talented women in the world, were allowed to go out and just tear it up for 15 minutes. 15, 20 minutes. It seemed a bit longer, but it was really, really good stuff. Bayley versus Nia Jax wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. Then Balor versus Joe was pretty good. Of course, you had Balor dressed up like Jack the Ripper. It's a bit uncomfortable. The Revival carried Enzo and Cass as their best match of their entire career. This is a card I remember vividly, and I almost wish I would have ranked it a little bit higher. The reason I actually ranked it as high as I did was because of Asuka versus Emma. Even though Joe versus Balor was good, I think that feud went on a little bit long. I mean, it covered a couple takeovers, but went on a little bit long. But it did make sense why it started here, because you had Joe turn on Balor, right after a Dusty Classic, thinking, I want the title shot, and that kind of stuff, which was pretty cool. But then you also had Baron Corbin beat Apollo Crews and tell him to go back to Ring of Honor. Baron Corbin, being the intelligent individual he is, I think Apollo was part of a few co-branded shows the Ring of Honor did, and that's it. I don't ever think that Apollo was part of the Ring of Honor roster full time. Let me know in the comments if he was. Um, but yeah, so December 2015, London. I actually wish they would do another takeover in London, even if they have to do it early in the morning on a Saturday or like in the afternoon or whatever. I will go watch. I'll take the day off from work. I don't really care. They need to do a couple more international takeover events because really the London crowd added a whole bunch to it. And actually, this was the one that started the "Oh Bailey, won't you be? Oh, I want to know, will you be my girl?" It started that. And London, love you guys. Big Bird 432. I don't know if you were at this event, but if you were, thank you for keeping the crowd loud. I know it wasn't just you, but seriously, London was just such a great crowd here. They added a lot to it. And then number 13, NXT TakeOver: The End. A lot of people thought it was going to be the end of the TakeOver event. I did. I bought into it because I'm stupid. I don't really think that's much of a secret. Actually, I'm not dumb. I just buy into it because I'm just a crazy fan that buys into a whole bunch of stuff. Asuka versus Nia Jax was okay. You did have American Alpha versus the Revival. That was good stuff. Where American Alpha's title reign ended really quickly. Like, I was a bit surprised, honestly. It ended really, really quickly. But yeah, then you had Balor versus Joe in a great cage match, and you had a couple other matches on there too. It wasn't anything bad. I think you had Aries versus Nakamura, if I recall correctly, which was a bit odd. It was a bit odd, but it wasn't bad. But this was a weird takeover because it was like right after Dallas, and then in between, and then you were gonna take over Brooklyn too, and then they suddenly announced this one. And actually, I think, if I remember right, I think this one was at Full Sail. So I think this was the last one that they had at Full Sail. And then they took it out of there altogether. But it was a bit odd to have it. I mean, it wasn't a bad one. It wasn't a great one, but it wasn't a bad one. It ranks just a little bit above London because I feel the card was a little more consistent. Like the tag match was a little better and the title match was a little better. But that's just my personal opinion. And then we go to number 12, TakeOver Brooklyn 1. People are going to be very shocked that this is there. I mean, yeah, Jushin Thunder Liger versus Tyler Breeze in the opener. Vaudevillains captured the tag titles from Blake and Murphy. Joe versus Corbin. That wasn't great. Yeah, the main event of Balor versus Owens, which certainly was good. It was a good ladder match. But the main reason this is ranked up here, because watching that card back now, the tag title match ain't that great. It's a great pop for the Vaudevillains. The teams meshed together okay. You had Blue Pants there. Leva Bates, I think is her name. That was pretty cool. Big pop for Blue Pants. Blue Pants City was pretty cool. Crowd was really, really on fire here. But Sasha versus Bayley, and I'm going to try not to gush too much because that match is going to appear on my countdown of the best women's matches in TakeOver history. This is a thing of beauty. I actually tear up watching this match because it's a thing of beauty. You can tell that these women tried so hard and got so far, and in the end, it did matter, and that's a bit of a twist on the Linkin Park lyrics because this was so wonderfully done. They did so goddamn well. They had the crowd eating out of the palms of their hands, off of out of any plate that they had. If they had any plate of anything in their hands, the crowd was eating it up. From the reversals to focusing on Bayley's hand to the great stuff that they did with reversing out of the bank statement and the crowd popping the first Bayley to belly and getting goosebumps just thinking about it. And the end where Bayley just finally focuses, hits the second Bayley to belly. 1, 2, 3, crowd explodes. Bayley celebrating. Other 4 horsewomen, Charlotte and Becky Lynch, come down. They all celebrate. That's great stuff. Go back and watch it. I really can't encompass that match any better. I mean, I can't encompass that match like those ladies did. The way, the efforts, and that's not just women's wrestling, that's fucking wrestling right there. That proved right there. If that's not in your top 10 matches of NXT TakeOver history, and I'm taking all cards into consideration, I don't know what's wrong with you. I mean, we're all different fans here. We all have different tastes. I don't know what's wrong with you. But anyway, now we go to NXT TakeOver San Antonio. This one, DIY versus Authors of Pain. You had Rude versus Nakamura. If I'm right, you had Asuka versus Peyton versus Billy versus Nikki. I know Peyton and Billy were in there. I don't remember who else was in there. I think Nikki Cross was in there. It was very odd though. This was one where it was good. It wasn't great, and I don't know. I was a little bit disappointed by it. But it still was a good raucous crowd. And yes, Rude beating Nakamura's bitch sugar. Nakamura had a very weird NXT title run. Because he won it twice. And I can't name anything really memorable outside of him winning it the first time. I can't really do that. Because they hot potatoed it a little bit too much. And it was very odd. But I get why they did what they did. I had no issue with Rude beating Nakamura. But the match was good, classic, old school stuff. But it dragged a little bit to me. However, the event does rank a little bit higher just because the card was a little more consistent. Brooklyn 1 was really focused just around 2 matches and it ended up just being about only 1 match, the women's match. This did have a little more consistently with being spread across the board and having some good stuff all around. Even if the main event wasn't great to me, but I get why people liked it. And now we move on to number 10, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2 Electric Boogaloo. There's my one per show. From August 2016. Very good stuff. Yeah, I mean, really, very good stuff. Nakamura and Joe having a great match. Asuka and Bayley having a great match. DIY versus the Revival. In that match where DIY just came this close to winning. And the only reason that this one's ranked lower is because the next match that they had, the match that they had at the next TakeOver was just that much better. But my God, just the great stuff with it. So much good stuff. And the crowd was even hotter, I think, than the first one. Even if it was foregone conclusion, easy for me to say that Bayley was going to lose, still the crowd was invested in it. Izzy was upset, as a kid would be when she sees her favorite loses and knows that she's going to be called up to the main roster, where they ruin Bayley consistently. Holy fuck, they have ruined Bayley, and I am upset about it. But I didn't know they were going to do it at the time. Actually, I did. I think a lot of us did. But that DIY Revival match is on here for a big reason. And just, and honestly, the title match, the NXT title match, Nakamura and Joe was pretty damn good. They had a really, really good mix, of styles of just kicking each other's faces in and everything and hammering each other to the point where neither one could, really get up very easily. And then we move on to number 9. NXT TakeOver Orlando. Now this one, Ember versus Asuka, I didn't care for as much as other people did. But you had the Revival versus AOP versus DIY, where Revival even took to the air to do some dives. No flips, just fists. Like the shirt, but they had to do dives because they had to take out AOP, and AOP just being the dominant, big, bald bastards that they are. Actually, I'm sure they have dads, but the whole point is that just had a saying that rolled off the tongue, about as well as oil and water mixes. Also, you had Rude versus Nakamura in Nakamura's farewell NXT match, and some other good stuff. There was a good mix here. One could argue that this one was a little bit lesser than in TakeOver Dallas, which actually is going to be what I talk about next. But yeah, the Orlando one was fine. I just felt the Asuka-Ember feud was a little weak because once Ember didn't beat her, especially the second time, we were like, okay, well, Ember is just, her credibility shot. And then we go to TakeOver Dallas, where Nakamura, Zayn, American Alpha, Revival, Joe versus Balor. Yeah, the Joe versus Balor. I believe this is the one where Joe got cut above the eye, and they kept having to stop it to stop the bleeding because WWE doesn't want to let their fans or let their wrestlers have fun anymore. Actually, in all seriousness, for the wrestlers' health. But those 3 matches in particular are why it's ranked there. American Alpha and the Revival had some great matches. I actually got to see them at a May 2016 NXT house show, and they wrestled just as hard on that house show as they did in front of how many ever people they had in Dallas and whatever kind of hot crowd they had at NXT TakeOver the end. It was just such great stuff. American Alpha, tremendous team. And in case you guys haven't heard, it's unfortunate about Jason Jordan's possible career-ending neck injury. I hope that that's not the case. I hope that he just needs some more time off, maybe a little bit more, therapy and surgery, and he'll be okay. American Alpha Dynamite team, and them versus the Revival, but also Nakamura and Zayn, just the insane, if you will, match that they had, just fucking wonderful. Great stuff. And Asuka beating Bayley. and just silencing everybody, and Izzy crying. A lot of talk about Izzy crying in this countdown. This is nothing against the kid at all, but some great stuff. Honestly, Izzy really did add to the match. And Asuka just choking out Bayley, where I'm just like shocked. Like, I'm like, okay, Asuka's going to beat her, pin her, maybe with a kick. I didn't think she was going to friggin' knock Bayley out. But when she did, I just remember being just aghast, like, holy fuck, I just beat her just soundly. I mean, Bayley showed up and did well, but Asuka pretty much just killed her. Because I don't think there was any doubt that Bayley was going to lose here. But then oddly she was called up for a one-off at Battleground 2016, and then had the aforementioned rematch with Asuka at Takeover Brooklyn 2, Electric Boogaloo, and then got called up to the main roster. But Dallas is kind of the benchmark, but to me, watching it back, you got those matches. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like Dallas, after, even the Joe Balor match, while good, wasn't the best main event. So the crowd was hot, but that's just my ranking. So now we move on to number 7, Takeover Brooklyn 3. Drew versus Rude, I thought was really damn good. Ember coming up short against Asuka, less so. Tag title matches. You had some great stuff with Sandy and AOP, and you also had the Undisputed Era show up at the end of the Drew Rude match, which was also some damn good stuff. You had some undercard stuff also, but there was just some really, really good stuff about it. And Nikki Cross just being absolutely insane here at Brooklyn 3. I really did enjoy that, and I love me some Nikki Cross. Perfect combination of crazy and adorable, and I bet she is just a load of fun to hang out with. Honestly, I bet she is. She just seems like the kind of person you would just have a lot of fun hanging out with. Like, take her to the movies or take her and watch her, laugh at, I don't know, small animals, like playing and fighting with each other. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Brooklyn 3 was damn good, especially for the Undisputed Era showing up. The women's match was good, don't get me wrong, but it kind of is tainted by the whole thing of like, okay, yeah, Asuka had the undefeated streak. They mucked that up by Mania, and then really mucked it up after Mania. But even if I didn't mind Charlotte beating her. But anyway, Brooklyn 3 did have a really, really hot crowd, and that's why it's ranked here. And now we move on to NXT TakeOver Chicago 2, the most recent one here on the countdown. Gargano and Ciampa just having that blow away, just friggin' street fight, brutal ass motherfucking match. My God, it was just insane. I didn't really care for Shayna versus Nikki Cross, but it was probably the best match Shayna's had. Undisputed Era versus Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. Velveteen Dream versus Ricochet. Damn good stuff. I mean, I know there's another match I'm missing there, and I apologize, but that was just really, really damn good stuff. Just damn. Absolutely good stuff. Really just there really wasn't anything bad to say about this. I mean, I think it's like just some damn good stuff. Aleister Black versus Lars Sullivan. That was the other match I was forgetting. And that's the important thing about Lars Sullivan suffering that broken jaw. Hopefully he's going to be okay. He seems like he's back already. Like, they have him appearing on camera a little bit, even if it's off in the distance. Like, who attacked Aleister Black? Probably find out. Take over Brooklyn 4. Who knows? Brooklyn 3's, or not Brooklyn 3, but Chicago 2 was really damn good. Maybe not quite as good as number 1. Or, the first one, but here we go. So now we go to number 5, Takeover Philly. Now, I gotta admit, I didn't really care for... I really didn't care for Ember. I think it was Ember versus... Was it Ember versus Shayna again? No, it was Ember. Ember did not have the best title reign, let's just say that much. But Gargano and Almas is one of the reasons you gotta check this damn thing out. Absolutely fucking fabulous match. Takeover Philly really did have a lot of good shit. You had Velveteen thinking it was a boxing match against Cassius Ohno. That was good shit. And some really, really good, some good stuff. Some good, damn good wrestling. Some damn good, solid efforts from all the talents involved. But Gargano versus Almas is a big reason why this is on here, because my God, it was just so fucking lovely just how impactful that match was and just how landscape changing that was. It was just really just damn good. It was a damn good match. Go back and check it out, see the rest of the card, and see what I'm talking about. But Gargano versus Almas was fucking wonderful, and Ciampa showing up at the end was exactly what you needed to have happen. And then, number 4, NXT TakeOver New Orleans. People are going to be shocked that this is ranked this low, because you did have the North American title ladder match, crowned the first ever champion. You also had Aleister versus Almas. You had Shayna finally beat Ember Moon. So you had Velveteen, EC3, Lars, Ricochet, Adam Cole, bye. And yeah, you had, God, who the fuck else was in that ladder match? Oh, god damn. EC3, Ricochet, Velveteen, Adam Cole, bye, Lars, and goddamn, Killian Dane. That's who else was in it. Goddamn, how it feels. No wonder, because Killian Dane's been marginalized on the fucking main roster. Killian Dane's great, by the way. That was a great ladder match. That deserves its place on here. The tag title match where Roderick Strong turned on Pete Dunne and joined the Undisputed Era. That was a great moment. I wish I had fucking called that. But Aleister versus and now I remember, now that I think about it, from TakeOver Philly, Aleister versus Adam Cole in that Extreme Rules match. That's another match you need to check out from that. And also, back to New Orleans, just Aleister versus Almas was just absolutely wonderful. I didn't care for the women's match, but I see why some people did, so let's move on. Now we move to number 3, TakeOver Toronto from November 2016. DIY versus the Revival is the main reason why this is on here. It's absolutely wonderful match. Fan-fucking-tastic. Great stuff. 2 out of 3 falls. Revival getting the first fall, and then DIY getting the second fall, and just that back and forth, and just everybody's thinking they're going to get a heartbreak, and Revival's going to win. And just and I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, but just you got, God, you got like the submission specialist, the submission like at the end, and then the next submission at the end. And like, the Revival are in both submissions, are trying to stop each other, and then they both tap out, and just the crowd freaking erupting. The Canadian crowd, the Toronto crowd, is why this is ranked this high. And it's actually why it's ranked just above New Orleans, even though New Orleans had a fantastic fucking card. There's that, and also you had Joe and Nakamura, where Joe won the title back for all of like a month. You had Mickie James versus Asuka. You had some great fucking matches here. Great fucking matches. Ty Dillinger versus Bobby Roode. 2 near Toronto boys, or actually I think they might have both been born just outside Toronto, but it's great stuff. They had a great pop. It was actually dueling pops between 2, Canadian homeboys. Not like street slang stuff, but home country guys. But that DIY Revival match is why it's on here. That's just picture perfect tag team wrestling. Number 2, NXT TakeOver Chicago 1. Tyler Bate versus Pete Dunne. You had a women's match. I believe it was Asuka versus Ruby Riott versus Nikki Cross, which was a very good match, very good 3-way. Even with Asuka pinning both ladies at the end, I didn't care for that. It did give us Nikki Cross versus Asuka on NXT TV about a month later, which was a damn good last woman standing match. Yeah, Tyler Bate versus Pete Dunne. That was a fantastic match. And you had, DIY versus AOP. You had Rude versus Hideo Itami, but DIY versus AOP is why this is on here. Ladder match, Ciampa just had a shredded ACL. I mean, I guess it was just literally hanging on by a thread. They must have given him a pain shot or something. I don't know how the hell he did that. He did it, and they got through the match, and they didn't quite win. And then the fucking turn, where Ciampa just throws Gargano into the stuff and, throws him off the announcer's table, everything, doing that big driver, just destroying him. Gargano's face of, just being betrayed by his best friend, and the crowd chanting, "Fuck you, Ciampa." Which, right there, that's how you've created a monster heel right there. But this match, that match and the whole card itself, the hot crowd deserves its place here at number 2. And number 1, NXT Takeover War Games. The best NXT Takeover event in history. You can fight me if you want. That's okay. The War Games match, I wasn't so sold on it at first. I actually had to go back and watch this again. My initial review may have not been quite as glowing as it should have been. And I really should have done a second viewing and then reviewed it. But my God, it was just fucking great. It was so fucking great. AOP Roderick Strong versus the Undisputed Era versus three members of Sanity. In a great War Games match, WWE's version of War Games. Velveteen Dream versus Aleister Black. It did have Shayna versus Ember Moon, which wasn't great, but it did tell a good story. I just didn't care for it, that's my opinion. But you really just had a consistently great card. Those 3 matches, and there are obviously 2 undercard matches that are also very good. This was just solid from top to bottom. That War Games match was great. Velveteen and Aleister tearing the goddamn house down. Velveteen arriving. I hope he doesn't get called up to the main roster after SummerSlam. I really hope he doesn't. I'm afraid they're going to ruin him. But anyway, that's what I got to say. And thank you guys for sticking with the long show. If you had to watch this in 2 chunks, I understand. But I didn't think I would go 31 minutes. But anyway, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree with how I rank these NXT takeovers? Are there matches that you wanted me to talk about that I didn't? How would you rank some of these? Just do your top 5, top 10 if you don't want to rank every single one worst to best. Do your top 5, top 10 in the comments. Like, share, subscribe also. It's been Real Honesty with John Ritlin, and I will see you soon.